Hi, my name is Anthony Turner. Since 2003, I've been working as a small business coach. And in that time, I've probably worked with hundreds, probably thousands actually, of business owners of all different sizes. What I've come to realize is there's two main reasons why the majority of those business owners fail to reach their full potential. Now, the first of those is that they are not clear about, or they've never really set proper goals about why they're in business and what they want to get out of the business. The second reason is that they often don't really understand what is going on in their business. In other words, they don't understand their numbers, they don't know the things that make their business tick, and they're not working on priorities. Now, as part of a process of thinking about all that, I've realized that there's actually really 5 basic steps about any business that if you actually pay attention to these, you will actually create the success that you desire. Now, the first of these is to continuously know where you are. In other words, that means having a handle on everything that is going on in your business at any particular point in time. But it is also about knowing what's happening with you. You know, do you have outside stresses at home? Do you have money worries? Do you have any other influences? Are there things happening in your local community, around your shopping centre, around the business environment that you are working in? All of these things will actually have an impact on how your business is going to go. So part of the number one rule is to keep an eye on what is happening and what is not happening in your business. The second one is to know where you are going. In other words, what is your goal? Do you actually have a goal for your business? My wife and I, we've set up a business, and our one goal, which we started that business, was within 3 years we would sell it. Right? So our whole process, the planning process, and everything else has been geared around that one goal of having that business ready for sale at 3 years. Now, whether we sell it or not remains to be seen. But the thing about it is it will be ready. Now, the third one is to decide your income. Yeah, and you did hear me right. I said decide your income. Right? Now, why decide your income? Typically, small business owners and business owners in the startup phases, they take what's left out of the businesses at the end of the day and hoping that there is something. So, if things are tight, the only one that actually misses out is you and me. We're the ones that don't get paid. But by actually having a process where you decide your income and you actually create a budget around that, we can actually flip the whole process over so that you can focus on the actual goals of what you've got to achieve. There's an interesting couple of statistics. People with goals typically get between 90 and 120% of what they plan to get. People without goals typically get between 50 and 80% of what they require. So doesn't it make sense to decide how much money you need, work out what it is, set that as part of your financial goals, and then let's go for it. The fourth one is to actually tell the world. And of course that relates to all of your marketing. Now that doesn't matter whether that's in a face-to-face networking or whether that's on social media or whatever it is. You can have the best business of all time, the best product, the best service, whatever. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't mean a thing if nobody knows that you exist. So telling the world is about working out who your customers are, what are their needs, what's important for them to hear, because they actually buy solutions to problems. They're actually not buying a product or service. And then it's about how do you communicate with them in ways that are important to them. And the fifth one is to manage for success. Now, doesn't everybody manage for success? In my experience, the answer is no. The majority of people actually manage their businesses to avoid failure. So in other words, they're not really thinking about those key things that actually make their business successful and managing to ensure those things happen. Typically, the ones that are managing to avoid failure are actually problem solvers. So they've got a problem comes up, they react to it. The people who manage for success are proactive. They work out what they require and they manage towards that. So my tip for you today is very, very simple. Take some time out. Take an hour. Let's do it in an evening or something like that, but really go through the process. Have a think about where are you at? Where are you looking to get to? How much money do you need to make? Who are your customers and how are you going to communicate with those people? And then how are you going to improve your management systems so you can manage for success rather than to avoid failure?